The Secret Lives of Prison Inmates. True stories from behind bars in Louisiana State Penitentiary, Angola Prison. The first thing you notice when you step inside Louisiana State Penitentiary, known as Angola, is the silence. But it's not the kind of silence that feels safe. It's the kind that presses against your chest, heavy and cold, because you know something can explode into violence at any second. On one scorching afternoon, that silence was broken by screams that could have been heard miles away if anyone had dared to listen. A fight had erupted between two inmates in the yard, and it quickly spiraled into chaos. Chairs flew, fists collided with faces, and the loud clang of metal echoed off the walls. Blood spilled on the dusty ground as guards struggled to pull men apart, but nothing seemed to stop the storm of rage. In that moment, it felt like the prison itself was alive, breathing fear into everyone who watched. The shocking truth was that this wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. Somewhere in the shadows of the yard, one inmate vanished during the chaos, slipping into an area no one dared to enter. No one saw him leave. No one knew where he went. And that was the beginning of the secret that no one in Angola wanted to talk about. Weeks before that violent day, Angola's walls were home to men who had lived lives most people couldn't even imagine. Marcus Thompson, a man in his 40s, spent his days in solitary confinement, but he wasn't there for minor crimes. He had been convicted of murder and had survived years of life sentences. In the yard, men like him ruled through fear, forming invisible kingdoms that no guard could truly control. Gang affiliations, rivalries, and secret codes ran through the prison like veins of fire. At night, whispers of plans and betrayals moved quietly through the cells, as if the walls themselves were listening. Life inside Angola was a mixture of extreme danger and dull routine. Inmates woke up to the sound of loud bells, marched to the dining hall for bland meals, and then worked in the fields under the burning Louisiana sun. Some men dug, some carried heavy loads, and some labored in the factory making license plates. On the surface, it seemed monotonous, but beneath that routine, secrets festered. Deals were made quietly. Contraband slipped through the cracks. And every action, no matter how small, could trigger consequences that were deadly. One day, a new inmate arrived, John Stevens, only 23 years old, trembling but trying to appear strong. He had been convicted of armed robbery and sentenced to 25 years. From the moment he entered Angola, he felt the weight of eyes following him. Older inmates whispered advice in corners. Don't trust anyone, not even your own shadow. For John, the prison became a maze of fear and rules he didn't yet understand. He watched men disappear into fights and reappear bruised, but defiant. He saw how alliances were made and broken in the blink of an eye. It wasn't all violence. Some men tried to hold on to hope, learning to read, writing letters to family, or attending church services in the chapel. But even in these quiet moments, fear was never far. One Sunday during chapel service, a group of inmates began arguing over who would control a section of the yard. Voices rose, shouts echoed, and in a moment of pure chaos, a hidden weapon, a shiv carved from a toothbrush, was revealed. Guards rushed in, breaking the fight, but the tension didn't leave. It lingered, thick like the Louisiana humidity. The most shocking moment came during a stormy night in the prison cell Block B. John, trying to make sense of his new reality, heard scratching at the bars. At first, he thought it was rats or wind. Then he realized it was a man whispering secrets, dark secrets, through the cracks in the wall. They think I'm gone, but I'm everywhere, the voice hissed. Chills ran down his spine. The man was talking about the incident in the yard weeks before, the one where a prisoner vanished. According to him, the inmate had escaped notice not by chance, but through careful planning known only to a secret network inside the prison. John tried to ask questions, but the man vanished into the shadows before he could speak again. By morning, rumors of the vanished inmate had spread like wildfire. Inmates whispered of hidden passages, secret alliances, and crimes committed without anyone outside ever knowing. Some said the man had been killed and hidden. Others swore he had disappeared into an underground tunnel built during the prison's old plantation days. Guards pretended not to notice, but even they spoke in hushed tones about the day's violence. Every corner of Angola now held the memory of that one shocking fight, and everyone wondered what would happen next. And just when it seemed the tension might finally settle, a loud crash rang through the prison yard. Something, or someone, had fallen from the top tier of the cell block. Men froze. Screams pierced the air. The courtyard became a sea of chaos again, and John realized, with growing horror, that the secret life of Angola's inmates was far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Something terrible was about to happen, and no one knew who would survive. The courtyard was a whirlwind of shouting, running, and chaos. John barely moved, frozen in place as guards and inmates scrambled toward the source of the crash. A shadowy figure lay at the base of the cell block's upper tier, motionless. For a brief moment, everyone held their breath, fearing the worst. Some men whispered prayers, others muttered curses. Blood trickled down the concrete steps as guards rushed to block off the area, trying to control the panic that had gripped the yard. But Angola was never a place where fear could be contained. After the storm of confusion, life inside the prison returned to its harsh routine, but nothing felt the same. Men spoke in whispers about the fall, speculating whether it was an accident or something far more sinister. John noticed subtle shifts among the inmates. Some who had once ignored him now kept a careful eye, sizing him up. Others moved like shadows, silent and watchful, as though the events of that night had awakened a hidden hunger in the prison's walls. Days passed slowly. John learned to navigate the tense corridors and secretive alliances. He watched men pass contraband, exchange favors, and make silent threats without a word. One inmate, Derek Malone, had a reputation that even guards respected and feared. Derek had survived multiple life sentences, brutal fights, and even a near-fatal stabbing. Yet, he carried himself with a calm, almost eerie, control that made John uneasy. Derek pulled John aside one evening, his voice low and deliberate. "You're new," he said. "You'll either adapt, or you'll disappear." John nodded, unsure if he understood the warning, or if he wanted to. The less extreme days were a mix of mundane tasks and quiet tension. Inmates labored in the fields, washed the cells, or attended classes, but underneath, secrets moved like underground rivers. John discovered that small acts could carry huge consequences. A misstep could make him a target, or a powerful ally. One evening, in the cafeteria, a fight nearly broke out over a stolen carton of milk. The guards intervened just in time, but John realized that every day in Angola was a gamble, and survival meant understanding the prison's hidden rules. But just as things seemed to settle, the prison revealed its darkest truths. One night, during a routine head count, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the cell blocks, and the air was thick with tension. John could hear the pounding of boots and the shouts of guards. Someone had set a fire in the laundry room, and thick smoke filled the hallways. Panic spread instantly. Inmates banged on doors, coughing and gasping, while guards tried to contain both the blaze and the crowd. John ran, heart hammering, desperate to find a safe corner. Then came the screams, louder, more desperate than anything John had heard before. From the shadows of cell block C, a group of inmates attacked another man, dragging him toward the fire. Flames licked at the walls, the heat unbearable, as John realized that this wasn't random chaos. It was a planned attack, a carefully executed moment of violence designed to terrorize and destroy. Derek Malone emerged from the smoke, eyes blazing, shoving men aside as if nothing could touch him. But even he paused when a figure burst from the flames, a man covered in soot, bleeding, and screaming for help. The courtyard erupted again. Men fought in the firelight, throwing anything they could find. Guards fired warning shots into the air, but they barely slowed the frenzy. The fire spread rapidly, smoke choking the entire area. John stumbled, coughing, as he saw a figure climbing the yard fence, trying to escape the inferno. But then a massive explosion shook the prison walls. Something inside the laundry room, maybe gas or chemicals, ignited with terrifying force. Flames shot skyward, sending debris across the yard. The force of the blast knocked men off their feet. Screams and shouts mixed with the roaring fire as chaos consumed everything in its path. John hit the ground, shielding his head. Around him, Inmates and guards alike were caught in a scene of pure horror. Men were screaming, running, and some disappeared into the smoke, swallowed by the inferno. Derek, the man who seemed untouchable, was thrown against the wall, blood streaming down his face. And somewhere in the chaos, the man who had vanished months ago, the one everyone thought was gone, reappeared from the shadows, silently observing the disaster. No one knew what he was planning, but everyone understood one terrifying truth. Angola's secrets were far from over, and the worst was yet to come.